Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sean Banks from Demand Driven Technologies. We're going to be getting the webinar started here in just another minute or two, giving a few folks who may be running late a moment to log in. So we'll get started here in about 1 or 2 minutes. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. First off, I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to join us for the webinar today. We are very excited to share with you an overview of Replenishment plus NS, our native to NetSuite DDMRP solution. We'll be going through a short presentation to walk you through some of the backgrounds of both the DDMRP methodology as well as a little bit about demand-driven technologies. And then we'll walk you through the actual software itself, so you're going to see in a real environment what it is, what the software looks like and how it works. We do have the option to take questions through the chat box here in GoToWebinar. So as any questions come up, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we will address them at the end of the session here. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll start off by introducing demand-driven technologies. We are a software as a service company founded really with a singular focus on providing next generation and next level supply chain software solutions for manufacturers and wholesale distributors. My name is Sean Banks. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at Demand Driven Technologies. And joining me today is also Brad Mitchler, who is our Vice President of Partnerships and Product Management. We are headquartered here in Atlanta, Georgia, with about 30 employees right now and over 100 customers around the globe. And we are venture capital backed, so we are growing super fast, which is allowing us to continue to invest in our product here. So I want to talk a little bit about the challenges that we're seeing in the market today. You know, today's manufacturing and distribution professionals are really faced with a lot of prevailing challenges in the market. Most importantly, we see shorter customer tolerance time as being a common challenge across a lot of our clients. We see that Amazon is really priming a lot of our clients to have to deliver their products in such a short time frame. So people are just expecting things within 2 days. We're also seeing greater product variety and complexity, long lead times on parts and components, and shorter product life cycles. All this being combined with pressure from finance to keep our inventories leaner. And we seem to all be managing this in an inaccurate forecast. The solutions that are available to address these challenges are pretty limited. We have traditional MRP, which is generally outdated. We have some forecasting tools, which a lot of our clients are using, especially in the NetSuite arena, and then some lean and pull-based systems as well. But not really any of these has provided a multi-echelon, fully scalable solution to address all of these challenges. So what we see now is because of these challenges, the dominant inventory planning tool today is really a little bit of a crystal ball plus Microsoft Excel. We found that about 95% of companies are using spreadsheets in an attempt to address the limitations in their current planning solutions. Now, what we want to accomplish is to bring effective inventory planning into NetSuite with Replenishment plus NS. So Replenishment plus NS is going to help our clients extend the Suite Cloud platform by giving them a way to plan for inventory natively within NetSuite. So our goal here is to get you out of Excel and into planning within NetSuite. So the product we're talking about today is called Replenishment plus NS. This is the first and only demand-driven MRP solution built native to NetSuite. It is a materials planning solution that allows manufacturers and distributors to effectively manage their inventory. With Replenishment plus NS, we're able to dramatically improve supply chain performance by aligning inventory to true market demand. And what this results in is improved customer service levels, optimized inventory levels, and better visibility across the supply chain. The key difference in how Replenishment plus NS is different from other planning tools is this DDMRP concept. Now, current MRP systems are going to use forecast-driven planning, which means we have planned orders to create supply orders in anticipation of need. We typically have forecast errors associated with planned orders, which results in inventory misalignments or even expedite expenses. With Replenishment plus NS, we're going to shift to using a DDMRP methodology, or demand-driven materials requirements planning. This is going to improve the demand signal accuracy by shifting to sales order-driven planning, or consumption-based planning, if you will. So only sales orders within a short time horizon are going to qualify as demand allocations, and we know sales orders are going to give us a near-perfect indication of what's being sold and when it will be sold. Now, the way that we're able to do this sales order-driven planning is by holding stock in key areas, and we do this with what's called a DDMRP buffer. Now, everywhere we place a DDMRP buffer, it is designed to ensure constant material availability. So we would set these up with just about any item that we'd want to manage with Replenishment Plus. We have these three zones, and you're going to see these a lot in the demo, so I'll explain them here. We have our red zone at the bottom. This is sized to address item variation. This is similar to a safety stock, but it's designed to be consumed. On top of that, we'll have a yellow zone. This is sized to cover usage over one lead time. So if we're using 10 units per day and our lead time is 15 days, our yellow zone will be 150 units. That's stacked on top of the red zone. And then on top of that, we'll have our green zone, which is sized to support an average order size or a minimum order quantity. So if we have a minimum order quantity of 20 units, our green zone will be 20 units. We'll stack those three zones on top of each other, and we'll generate supply orders based on actual demand using what's called a net flow equation. So our net flow equation factors in all things that are flowing in through our supply chain that are important to us. We take our on-hand inventory, add in our open supply, subtract out our sales orders that are due today or in the past, and then subtract out any qualified spikes to equal net flow. And to be sure, a qualified spike is a sales order due in the near future, which we view as large enough to significantly impact our inventory position, and we'll want to factor it in earlier. So we use this net flow equation. We're recalculating this every 15 minutes within Replenishment Plus, and we're going to match it up against our DDMRP buffer. If the net flow falls into the green zone, we're good. We don't need to issue any replenishment today. Once the net flow number falls into the yellow zone, we'll issue an order to get the net flow back up to the top of green. And should we ever find ourselves in the red zone, we know we have a clear priority for replenishment, and we may want to take a further look at this item and see if there's any other actions that need to be taken. So with the DDMRP buffers, we're resizing our buffer size based on actual demand, and we're placing orders based on what's flowing through our supply chain with the net flow equation. So the results that we show with our solution are pretty meaningful. We're typically targeting very high customer service levels in the 97 to 100% range for on-time fill rate performance. In some clients, we've seen lead time compression up to 80%. Reduced inventory is often the clearest way to to calculate a meaningful financial impact of what we do here by eliminating what we call a bimodal inventory distribution. We're often able to see inventory reductions of 20 to 45%. Additionally, we'll able to have a reduced variability within our supply chain, and the tool itself is very easy and intuitive to use. So our pricing for this tool is based on an annual subscription model. We customize all pricing based off things like inventory level, complexity, locations, and then we implement this software ourselves. So we have a one-time implementation fee that's based on the complexity of an implementation, and it generally takes us about 6 to 10 weeks to go from contract signature to our clients being completely self-sufficient on the platform. The ROI case is really clear for a tool like this. If we were able to just look at only on-hand inventory, a conservative impact would be a 20% reduction in inventory, which reduce inventory $2 million on this example here, which is a clear reduction in carrying cost. So our typical payback period is somewhere between 3 or 4 months, depending on the client. We've had a lot of success across all types of manufacturers and distributors, electronics, automotive, consumer goods, food and beverage is something we've been focusing on a lot on lately, as well as healthcare. Historically, we've had a lot of traction in aerospace and packaging, and any type of industrial manufacturing is really good as well. Our client base is continuing to grow. You can see here we've got a lot of logos here, and this slide continues to get bigger and bigger, so we're really proud of the work we've done across all these different verticals within manufacturing and distribution. So if you want to learn more after the webinar here, we have our website information up here. You're always free to email us at sales@demanddriventech.com. And then we've also linked our Suite app page. If you want to find our actual Suite app application site, you can check that out as well. But with that, I'm going to pass controls over to Brad here, and he's going to take us through the product demonstration.
Thank you, Sean. Great. Well, this is Brad Mitchler. I'm the Vice President of Product here at DD Tech, and work a lot with our NetSuite platform and our NetSuite clients. And so I'm definitely super excited to show you guys Replenishment Plus for NetSuite today. As Sean said, we are very proud of the progress that we've made on this solution over the past couple of years since we've launched the product. And I'm going to kind of walk you through some of the old features, but some of the new features as well. You can see here that I am logged into my demo instance of NetSuite to walk you through the software. The great thing about our Replenishment Plus for NetSuite solution, of course, is that it is built natively for NetSuite. So all the screens for Replenishment Plus live and breathe within your normal NetSuite environment. You can see all the drop-down menu here for Replenishment Plus. I've got my menus, my alerts, my planning options here as well. I'm going to take you through a day in the life of a planner here towards the middle part of the demo, but we're going to start out today by just looking at one item so we can talk about DDMRP and buffers and how we manage a single item within our Replenishment Plus platform. So I'm going to go ahead and search for item PPJ, which is Purchase Part J in our demo system. You can see I can search in my smart search at the top for PPJ, click on the R+ record for this item, and it will bring up this beautiful Replenishment Plus page. Every item that we manage material for in NetSuite, we want to have an R+ record for in NetSuite. This is the R+ record for PPJ. It's at the plant, as you can see, so this is location specific. And I'm going to walk you through the screen. At the top of the screen, we've got the item, the location, and the description of the item, along with the replenishment method, which in this case is replenished. Replenished items mean that they're buffered. So buffered items, as Sean said in his overview, it means that we're hoping to ensure constant availability of material for these items. And you can see I've got the buffer built out below, which I'll walk through in a moment. The other types of items that we manage in our Plus are non-buffered items, which are simply buy-to-order or make-to-order items, as well as min-max items, where we apply a static or a dynamic minimum and maximum as the order policy for these items. In the middle part of the screen, I've got my status pane. This is really the brain behind the Replenishment Plus platform. On the left-hand side, I've got today's buffer size. So I've got 3 zones, as Sean mentioned. The red zone, which protects me against variability. The yellow zone, which is typical of a reorder point, and it's my usage over 1 lead time. And the green zone, which lets me know how often and the average order size of orders that I'm going to place on this item. In this case, my green zone today is based off of a minimum order quantity. Anytime my blue line, this net flow line, falls below the top of the yellow zone, I'm going to go ahead and reorder up to the top of the green zone. Today, my net flow is 14 units. My top of the yellow zone is 90 units right here. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and reorder from 14 to 110, and my recommended reorder quantity on this item is going to be 96. We'll talk more about the net flow in just a minute. I can also see my current on-hand on this buffer. Very important to recognize that we're not planning based on-hand inventory in DDMRP. We're taking a more holistic approach and viewing our supply, demand, and inventory as a trigger for reordering. In this case, my on-hand is at 45, right in sort of the bottom part of the yellow zone, which is where I expect my on-hand to trend. And then I also have this little blue dot here, and if I scroll over that, it will show me the expected average inventory of today's buffer. I expect this on-hand number to fluctuate around the expected average on-hand, and so we'll see that on the right-hand side here. The buffer on a daily basis changes. There are 3 main factors that go into the buffer. So lead time is one factor, and lead time is static, of course, in NetSuite. Variability category, so we categorize items based on their variation in their demand history, and that's static as well. That helps me size my red zone. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we size the buffer based on the average daily usage of the item. So the average daily usage is how much do I consume per day on average. It's simply the total amount of demand over our historical horizon, usually between 90 and 180 days. We take up all the demand in that time period, we divide it by the number of days in the denominator, and that gives us our average daily usage, or ADU. Every single day the ADU changes. So if a big order comes in today, tomorrow my ADU will flex up just slightly, right? And over time, if I have a growing business and a growing product set, the ADU will fluctuate up and then down with decreases in consumption as well. On the right-hand side of this page now, I can see the historical view of my buffer, and I can filter on different time periods. So I'm going to go ahead and filter on the last 26 weeks, which is 6 months here. And we can see a few things happening. Let's first look at just my EDU trend and my buffer. My effective daily usage is trending up from 7 to 9 per day, and then down here at the later part of the 6-month period, it gets down to in the 6 range. While this is happening, my buffer is actually flexing up and down with that change in my rate of usage. Therefore, my buffer, even though in this quite seasonal part, is still effectively resizing itself on a daily basis, and this is what we're trying to achieve here at DDMRP. If I turn on the net flow line, I can see that my planner in this case has been planning rather effectively, and every time our blue line, the net flow, went into the yellow zone, they went ahead and reordered back up to the top of green. And we kind of plan like this in perpetuity, and it makes it very easy to make decisions about purchasing or manufacturing or distribution. My on hand is going to fluctuate around the top part of the red zone, the bottom part of the yellow zone, and you can see that here as well. And then you can also see the trend in expected average inventory. When my demand was greatest, I expected to have on average 72 units on hand, it looks like, and at the trough, only 45 units on hand. So again, quite a seasonal product here being managed with this DDMRP buffer, and it's doing it quite effectively. This is a really valuable view for planners because at the item level, I can see how effective my buffer has been. If my on-hand line is going down to 0 many times throughout the 6-month horizon, I know that I probably need more red zone, more protection for this item. At the same time, if my on-hand line is never going into the red zone, I probably don't need as much of a red zone, right? And I can actually lean out my inventory position further by eliminating some of the red zone in this buffer. So this is a great sort of S&OP tool to change the settings of your buffers at the item level in this case. If I move down the page, you'll see a lot of information about the item, like the actual average daily usage here on this item. This is a buy part with a purchasing lead time of 10 days. We'll talk about manufacturing parts in just a little bit. My recommended order, as I said earlier, is 96 pieces. And it's important to note that I always respect order constraints such as minimum order, maximum order, and order multiple when I recommend orders in Replenishment Plus. If I flip over to the next tab here, you can see there's many tabs here at the bottom of the screen. I can see a more traditional time frame view of my supply and demand in my NetSuite environment. I always have inventory at the top, and remember, inventory is one of the critical components that goes into my net flow equation. Then I have all supply and demand listed below by transaction, sorted by date on the left-hand side. That's due date for demand and arrival date or receipt date for supply. Sales that are due today or in the past are being included in my net flow today. So today is the 10th. Any demand that's on the 9th or before, or the 10th or before, is already red because it's being included in my net flow equation. Out in the future, I have sales order demand that's gray because I'm not including it in my net flow yet. I also have these bold sales orders in the future that are qualifying as demand spikes in the future, and I'm going to go ahead and include them in my net flow early because we deem them large enough in magnitude. All supply will always be blue in this screen because we always include supply in my net flow equation. This is very valuable, of course, because I can look in this column called running balance and see how much inventory I should expect to have after each transaction phased by time. So if I scroll down, eventually I get out to the 24th of September, in this case, and I can see that I have a 10-unit negative balance, which means I probably need to purchase this purchase part, or perhaps purchase and also expedite, which we'll talk about later. I don't have a bill of material for this item because it's just a purchase part. A very cool tab that we've added recently is this buffer calculation tab. DDMRP, I always say it's like third grade math for a really smart third grader. So we want to make it really easy for our clients to understand how their inventory positions are being built each day. And this screen allows us to do this. I can look at each zone, the net flow equation, my expected average inventory, as well as my recommended order, and easily understand the math that's going in behind this buffer. So it's definitely not a black box tool. We want to bring ease of use and visibility into how we're actually planning our business. So that is the R+ record for purchase part J. When I'm ready to actually make an order in my NetSuite environment, I can simply press this Create Purchase Order button, and it's going to pop up the native for NetSuite purchase order creation screen. It will automatically populate that screen with all of the relevant information that we need to press Save and procure this item based on the quantity that Replenishment Plus is recommending. Of course, we cannot go through item by item every day, all of our items, because many of our clients manage hundreds or usually thousands of SKUs in their NetSuite environment. So of course we have a way to mass plan our items. If I go over to my planning tab under the Replenishment Plus dropdown, I'm going to hop over to the Accept Recommended Orders page, and this is where I can accept many orders in mass. This is a suitelet that shows me all items set up as R+ records in my system that I have recommended orders against. Anything in red means my net flow is already in the red zone. Anything in yellow means my net flow is in the yellow zone. And I always want to go ahead and purchase, make, or distribute items that are below the green zone in my buffer. So all of my items at all locations are right here. Of course, I can filter by a specific vendor, by a specific planner. We can actually customize these filters to filter by anything on our R+ record, buy versus make parts, etc. And as I scroll down here, I'm going to make this a touch smaller so we can see the full screen. You can see out to the right-hand side, I've got the recommended order quantity from R+ for each item at each location. As I check this box that says Create, this box on the right-hand side will automatically populate based on the order quantity that I'm recommending. And this is, again, obeying minimums, maximums, and multiples. If I want to change the vendor that I'm purchasing from, it's quite easy to do here. If it's a distributed part, I can come down and change the Replenish From location to distribute from a different location based on the locations that are set up in my NetSuite instance. So it makes it very easy to manage material and plan in mass. When I'm ready to go ahead and accept the orders, I can mark all, and it will mark all the orders that are recommended from Replenishment Plus today. All I've got to do is press Generate Orders, and it will actually go and create all those purchase orders and work orders within a minute. So the script is quite fast, and this allows me to do all of my planning in NetSuite very, very quickly and get us out of those spreadsheets that many of our clients are using today. So this is the Accept Recommended Order screen. I do want to also show our Planner's Workbench. Our Planner's Workbench is a saved search in NetSuite that many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with, that allows me to see all items that I manage in Replenishment Plus regardless of order status. So I'm going to filter here by one location, the plant, and then I'll also go ahead and filter by one planner. I like to use Frank for my demos. And you can see now I'm looking at all items that Frank manages in Replenishment Plus. So anything in red or yellow, you'll see I've got a recommended order quantity against, and these are showing up on my Accept Recommended Orders page. I've got all the components of the net flow equation out to the right. So here's PPJ. I've got my on hand plus my on order minus my qualified demand gives you my net flow equation. And in this case, my net flow equation is in the red, so I'm going to go ahead and reorder to the top of green. If I scroll down, I'll see some green items as well. These have no recommended order because my net flow is already in an appropriate position today. So I really don't even need to look at these items. And so this makes planning a lot faster for our users because they can concentrate on the items that need their attention today. Looking down at the bottom of the screen, we have this status called over the top of green that is in blue. And this shows us where I have items where my net flow equation is above the top of the buffer. This tells me that I have too much inventory and or supply planned for this item. So if I have open supply on this item, like I do in these two cases, I could actually go and try and cancel these at the vendor, if that's still possible, to reduce my potential for excess inventory when they arrive. Great. Did want to show you guys an example of a make part real quick. Now that we've kind of seen the day in the life of a planner from a planning standpoint, how much to order and when, I'm going to search again for a different part in my system called FPA. FPA is a make part, finished product A. And you can see it has a similar buffer to the other item that we looked at. This is replenished, so I am buffering this, and it has a little bit of a different look to its buffer trend over time, but a good buffer nonetheless. I've got a part activity with transfer orders and work orders and sales orders here. I can always click on these transactions to go into the details of NetSuite behind this. So this is kind of the beauty of this being built into NetSuite, is that all of these hyperlinks are always active. If I go to my bill of materials here, I can see the full bill of materials for this make item based on my item master in NetSuite. I always have FPA at the top. So this is the item that I'm on right now. And this icon next to FPA means that this is a buffered item. If I have a gray item, that means that item is non-buffered. Non-buffered parts, again, are buy to order or make to order, and buffered parts, I assume that I have constant availability of material based on the buffer logic. If I scroll out, or if I look out to the right, I'll see that I have 2 lead times for this item. 10 days is FPA's manufacturing lead time. So if I have everything on hand when I'm ready to start making FPA, I can do that in 10 days. In this case, my total R plus lead time, or decoupled lead time, is 35 days. If I look down at the first level BOM item PPA for FPA, I see that this is a purchase part with a 25-day supplier lead time. If I want to make FPA first, I have to wait 25 days. Then, when PPA arrives, I can make FPA for 10 days, so my total FPA lead time is 35 days. This is what's called the longest unbuffered leg in the DDMRP methodology. And I can see down below I've got many other buffered and non-buffered parts that are contributing to this BOM. I like to show an example of buffering PPA to show what impact that will have on my buffering position. Today on my finished product FPA, I have an expected average inventory of 108 pieces. And right now my net flow is in the yellow zone, so I have to reorder today. If I type in PPA in my top line here, I'm going to go ahead and make the strategic decision to commit working capital to hold inventory on this part. Today PPA is non-buffered, and I'm simply buying to order. So right now I've got 2 demand orders worth 72 units on this guy within 1 lead time, and my recommended quantity or order here is just going to be enough to get me to 0. If I edit this item, I can actually change this to be replenished. So I'm committing working capital to holding constant availability of inventory. And I'll give it a buffer profile here, which is the settings that we use to differentiate parts by lead time and variation. And I'll hit save, and immediately Replenishment Plus will build out a new buffer zone for this item PPA. Now I'm going to have a reorder quantity associated with this. It's going to want me to get my net flow up to the top of green. And if this is a cheap raw material, this is totally fine. If I go back to FPA, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this buffer. We're going to see that buffering that first level BOM item PPA has a dramatic impact on the buffering position at the top level item FPA. So originally, my expected average on hand quantity was 110. And we'll see that that's reduced here when this buffer refreshes. If I go to the Bill of Materials tab first, now I see that PPA is buffered, so I assume constant availability here. my FBA lead time has gone down at the cumulative level from 35 days to 14 days. My longest unbuffered leg now is circled. Its intermediate part, SAE, which has a 4-day total lead time. So if I want to make FPA, I have to wait 4 days to make SAE. Then I can make FPA for 10 days, and my total lead time is 14 days. Looking back up at my buffer, my original net flow on this guy, FPA, had a recommended order quantity, was in the yellow zone. Now I'm actually over the top of green, and I can cancel open supply orders. My expected average inventory went from, I believe, 108 to 43. So it's really amazing. I've done two things here by buffering this first level component PPA. I have dramatically reduced the lead time to make this finished good, so I'm more responsive to my customer. And I've also reduced the amount of inventory that I need to hold on hand on this expensive finished good. And so this is sort of the power of decoupling within the bill of materials in DDMRP and in Replenishment Plus. Awesome. I want to show a couple more things here, and then we'll wrap up and take questions. Wanted to touch quickly on our R+ alerts. Our alerts are not about when I need to order. They're more about when I have issues with supply and demand in my environment. So I went to our alert screen. I'm going to go ahead and filter again by my favorite planner, Frank. And we'll take a look at some of these alerts. Everybody on the call will agree with me that you can have 0 units on an item that's buffered and be totally stocked out and still not need to reorder, right? That's why we separate planning and procurement and work orders, production planning, from execution in DDMRP. I don't need to buy this item if it's stocked out, but maybe I need to expedite or move out a customer order. So we completely view these things as independent. And this alert screen is going to tell me when I have problems with timing in supply and demand. I've got 3 alert types here. Current inventory alerts show me when items are stocked out, period. So this is very bad, right? And I definitely want to explore these, potentially expedite and or move out a customer order. I'm also going to highlight items that have what's called a material synchronization alert. This tells me when I have supply that's coming in after demand that I need that supply for within 1 lead time. So this is, again, an expedite, a potential to expedite and prevent a stock out in the future. And then finally, I have projected stock out alerts, which alert me that based on my regular rate of usage, I may not have demand right now that will stock me out, but if my average daily usage comes to fruition on a daily basis, I should expect to stock out in the future, and will actually give me a date on when that will occur. So these are very valuable for our planners. They go down in priority as we work down the screen. So I like for planners to spend some time on this on a daily basis to make sure they can actually add value outside of just ordering, right? Our ordering process, as you've seen, probably speeds up for a lot of our planners after we go live. And so we want people to be able to focus on this screen more to add more value to their business and into the products that they manage. We have a bunch of reports in the system. I'm not going to go through them today just because of time on the webinar here. But we really strive hard to create reports in the system that enable our customers to track their performance and their progress as they use DDMRP. A lot of settings. We have some forecasting option here as well. Did want to look at our Smart Buffer Profiler very quickly. On the part record, I showed our buffer profiles. These are ways that we group like items by variation, lead time, and order policy so that we can apply settings to items in groups. And the Smart Buffer Profiler allows us to keep items in their proper buffer profile as time goes on and things change in the business. So I'm going to click on the plant as my location here to look at items in the Smart Buffer Profiler for just the plant. And you can see here that it's going to list items that need the buffer profile to be changed. So I've got my current profile, the new profile that Replenishment Plus is recommending, and it's telling you kind of why it's recommending this change. In this case, the lead time on this item is 20. Its current buffer profile is meant for a lead time that's less than 15, so it's saying that you need to go up a little bit. And then out here to the right, very critically, R+ will actually show you the expected change in inventory on average, both in units and in dollars, so that I can see the impact of these changes as I kind of approve changes for the buffer profiler. As I click items, it will total the expected units, and the expected dollar change at the top here. So when I make mass changes to my system, I have an idea of how that's going to impact me in terms of inventory and working capital. When I'm ready to accept changes, I can simply press the submit button at the top, and I'm good to go. So this is a key feature that we've just recently come out with that helps our clients, many months and perhaps years after implementation, keep their business aligned with the DDMRP methodology. Great. Well, that's all I want to cover in the demo today. So with that, I will turn it over back to Sean.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Great job with the demo there. So we do have a couple questions coming in from the audience, and if we do have a few more moments here, folks, so if there are any more questions, please feel free to submit them while we answer the first few we have here. The first one here, Brad, I think this is for you. How often are new features released for Replenishment Plus for NetSuite?
Yeah, good question. Quite often, which is great. The great thing about this product being built natively for NetSuite is that we're working within the native for NetSuite UI framework, and it makes it really easy to develop within the system. We generally release new versions of Replenishment Plus on, I'd say, an average of a monthly basis, and that includes, features that our customers are asking for. So every time we develop a feature, it's usually based around one of our customers' requirements, and we try and make it where all of our customers can get benefit out of that. And that's really why we've made so much progress in the software over the past couple of years, is because we've got great partners with our customers, and they've enabled us and advised us on, what features to develop and how we can help other customers. So quite often. Great.
Another one here about our the services that we provide. What does the implementation process look like for Replenishment Plus NS?
Yeah, good question. The implementation process for Replenishment Plus NetSuite, as Sean said, usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks. Again, the great part about being native for NetSuite is there's no integration required. You can simply install Replenishment Plus as a suite app in your NetSuite environment. It's kind of like installing an app on your iPhone, so it makes it very, very easy to set up. The implementation revolves more around training around the DDMRP methodology. So we do a lot of training around that using the Demand-Driven Institute's Implementation Support Pack, which is a great overview of the DDMRP methodology. And then we get really deep on the software training as well. We usually do one on-site for many of our clients, depending on the complexity. And we really strive to completely understand our client's business in terms of material flow so that we can effectively, strategically place the buffers within their environment. So 6 to 8 weeks, a lot of training, a lot of knowledge transfer, and we have a good time too.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and then one more question here from the audience. What are the key factors that make a company a good fit for R Plus NS?
Yeah, it's a good question. As Sean kind of said in the overview, we apply, and it's not really a testament to the software. I would say it's a testament to the DDMRP methodology. It applies to so many industries. I mean, you can Google DDMRP and see case studies from every industry under the sun. So I don't think it's very industry specific. On NetSuite specifically, we've got major distributors, heavy electronic manufacturers, industrial products, healthcare, et cetera, packaging. So not necessarily industries, but when I look at a client's demand during our simulation process, which hopefully Sean will talk about, we're looking for regular reoccurring demand. All businesses have seasonality, and that DDMRP does a great job of covering for seasonality, but we're looking for long life cycles, regular reoccurring demand. Christmas trees would be a bad industry to implement this solution with. But generally, within a prospect's business, there's always a segment of products that we feel like is a really good fit for DDMRP. So yeah, I think regular reoccurring demand is the biggest thing, Sean.
Great. Well, that's looks like all the questions we have here. We'll go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks everyone for joining us today. If you have any additional questions or want to discuss the potential of Replenishment Plus NS within your own business or in the interest in partnerships, please feel free to reach out to us directly at demanddriventech.com. Also, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. But yeah, with that, thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your day.